Do you really need to spend your money on premium noise reduction software such as DxO, D'Prime, PHOTOLAB, or Topaz DENOISE AI, or the traditional photo editing software should be enough for your sharpening and noise reduction? Let's find out. Now, we have this photo here taken with Panasonic DMZ200. Let me put it this way. This is a toy camera of $100 in eBay at ISO 1600, as you can clearly see here, which is equivalent to, let's say, Sony A1 at 100,000 ISO. Yeah, that's the capability. Let's zoom in quite a bit. Now I'm going to show you some example after that with each software. In this case, DxO PURERAW, which uses D'Prime, Prime, and HQ, just like the PHOTOLAB. SILKYPIX Developer Studio Pro, which is as an example for a traditional photo editing software, and Topaz DENOISE AI. So I'm going to show you side by side so that you can understand exactly what's going on. Now you can clearly see the noise here. This is crazy. The luminance noise and the color noise is just horrible, and you can clearly imagine that if you remove those noise, you're probably going to remove a lot of details as well. So let's take a look at the next photo. Now this one edited with SILKYPIX Developer Studio Pro 10, which I use as my traditional go-to software for photo editing. Now you can have a Capture One Pro, you can have a Lightroom, or even a DxO PHOTOLAB 4 itself. You can even have a free one, a Darkroom or RAWTHERAPEE. But my point is, I use a traditional software to remove the noise. Now, does it look good? The point is that where you're going to use it. If I'm using this photo for the social media, for my website, this is just more than perfect. Let me show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to zoom in about 100% because every photo looks very ugly in 100%, no matter how sharp it is. Now, you can clearly see due to removal of the noise, you have a lot of kind of like a plasticky, grainy things going on there. But does it make the photo look bad? And now bad photo is very subjective, right? I have all my details here. I can see my water drops of the rain on the leaves. It's not really smooth. However, because I'm looking at the photo at 100% zoomed in, which basically a wall-size photo, it is going to look not that good. But if you're looking at a certain distance, like now, it's perfect. Perfect in my world. It's perfect for WhatsApp or in email or Instagram or Facebook, where the photo is going to be already compressed and very tiny. Try to download a photo from your Instagram account or Facebook and try to zoom in. You will know exactly what I mean. Now let's take a look at the premium software. So our first one will be D'Prime. Now this one goes for DxO PHOTOLAB D'Prime and the PURERAW D'Prime. I used a PURERAW, but take it as an example of DxO PHOTOLAB 4 as well, because they both use exactly the same thing. Now, DxO PHOTOLAB as a suite, which is a proper editor, cost about $200 or euro, depends on where you're living. Now, DxO PURERAW cost about 120 euro or dollar without discount, and it doesn't give you any kind of manual control. It's all automatic. There is nothing you can do. You just have to press the button HQ, Prime or D'Prime, and you need to live with the result. Now this is what I did. I just pressed D'Prime, and that's the result I've got. Now, does it look good comparing to my traditional one? Now, color changed. Clearly see there's a change in color, but that doesn't matter because each software renders colors differently. I have no problem with that. I can bring back the color that I want. But what about details? I'm going to zoom in. Let's go to, again, 100%. So I'm going to go back and forth. Remember that previous photo looked a little bit, I don't know, mushy due to noise reduction. Instead, the artificial intelligence of the DxO D'Prime replaced it with kind of like a fine grain. There is a little bit of grain. You can clearly see, even if you're looking at from your tiny screen, from smartphone or your iPad or Samsung Tab or whatever small screen you're looking at, you can clearly see still that there's a fair amount of grain here. That's not a problem, but do I have all my details? It's just perfectly sharp, perfect details. The water drops looks really nice. The edges look really nice. And behind in the dark area, you still have enough light informations. However, let's move on to Topaz DENOISE AI that I personally use. Even though I don't like it or hate it, but I have it. There you go. That's the next one. Again, change in color. Nothing you can do about it because each software in the world renders colors in their own way. That's not a problem. It's a problem if you don't like the color, but it's not a problem. That's how each software reacts. They're not same. Now, do I have my details again? I'm going to zoom into 100% once again. Now go up. Remember in the SILKYPIX, you had like kind of mushiness. In DxO, you have like a fine grain. Here in this one, you do have a fine grain, but it's not, to be honest, as sharp as DxO D prime, because DxO D prime also do lens correction and Topaz DENOISE AI don't, so you have to do it yourself. Is that a problem? To me, honestly, it's not, because I just can add some sharpening and I can move on with my life. But do I have all my details? First of all, I do have all my details. It looks perfectly fine to me. Again, like I said, I can just use Photoshop or Affinity Photo, add some high pass sharpening or unsharp mask, and it would look perfect. And I can actually do it on my own with my own way. For example, I would avoid all the blur area and then add on the edges so that it looks nice and sharp. But it still look good. I'm going to show you something interesting. Now I'm going to go back and forth. So this is our original photo. Let's take a look at the shadow area. So look at behind the leaves right there. I'm going to go zoom in. See that shadow area? Yeah, you do have a lot of noise. Right, but you do have enough light. You can see what is behind that leaf because it's nice and bright. Now, look at the SILKYPIX version there. So I'm going to go back and forth. So that's the original. Now SILKYPIX, there is, except the green became greener. However, the light did not change at all. It exactly looks same. Now here's the interesting part. I'm going to go to the next photo. That's DxO. So I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to try to pay attention to the shadow area. That's the SILKYPIX. That's the original. SILKYPIX. DxO. The shadow area became darker. It's almost like using a S-curve. Right? Now, I'm going to go to the Topaz DENOISE AI. That's Topaz. Again, so technically speaking, the Topaz version and SILKYPIX, the traditional software version, did not change the luminance, did not change any kind of tonal contrast. The contrast remains exactly the same, but DxO changes. Now that's a problem. Why that's a problem? D prime has DNG. So technically speaking, DNG is a RAW, as all the manufacturers say, but it's wrong. DNG created by Topaz DENOISE AI or DxO D prime, technically they are 16-bit TIFF with a little bit more information, but none of them can replace the light and contrast information as the actual RAW, which means this bad noisy RAW file has better information than the converted DNG, believe me or not. So let's take a quick look back from the beginning. So that's our original photo, right? Take a good look, very good look. Look at the noise, look at the shadow area. Now let's go to the traditional version. You see, it looks better. I like the more punchy green color, not so oversaturated, yet all the details, no change in shadow details. DxO D prime completely changed the shadow information. Topaz, do not change it. Even though it's not as sharp as DxO D prime, but it does not touch the shadow information. The reason why I originally made this video, when I'm talking, I'm gonna go back and forth so that you can actually see the result. And as I'm talking. Now, do you need to spend extra money on any of those except whatever traditional software you have? Do you need to spend money on DENOISE for, I don't know how much it costs, 50 euro or 70 euro. Do you need to spend 120 euro on DxOD Prime? Or you can be happy with, let's say, whatever you have, Capture One, Lightroom, my case, SILKYPIX, or free Darktable, or RAWTHERAPEE, etc. Personally, if you're not making any money, I know a lot of professional photographers make a lot of money and successful using just Lightroom and Photoshop. They rarely use any kind of noise reduction software because as a professional, you should know how to use your camera first. If you are properly exposed, your photo is properly exposed, you will be fine. As for astrophotography, as for the landscape, again, it goes the same thing. There is so many other techniques exist in the world that you don't necessarily have to use a specialized noise reduction and sharpening software. Now, if you go to YouTube, there is explosion of software review. There is more product for the photography than the photography itself. It's exhausting. You don't necessarily need noise reduction software. You don't necessarily need specific sharpening software. As long as you expose well, as long as you use tripod and use all the basic tools. And the modern cameras and softwares have improved so much so that it's incredible how a cheap modern camera can do. Also, bear in mind, if you're posting your photo just for posting in internet, Instagram, Facebook, social media in general, nobody cares about sharpening. Nobody knows what you're using. They all look sharp in that tiny little screen. Trust me. So my takeaway from this video is that unless you absolutely have it and there is money behind it and your client requires to use some kind of noise reduction software or sharpening software, just expose well, use tripod, use all the basic rules of photography, and you don't need to spend any money on specialized software. Just enjoy photography instead. So I hope this video has been very helpful. If so, like and subscribe, and most importantly, please do look after yourself. Bye bye.